Good evening, and a cracking start to the second round for the British crew. They've enjoyed a breathtaking struggle against one of their most dangerous rivals in the long grind towards the semi-finals. And they face their next big test in an hour's time, racing the joint leaders, the American boat One World. We've the full story of yesterday's close-fought race with the American Stars and Stripes. A glimpse of today's race between the two top boats, One World and the Swiss boater Lingy. Another sailing lesson for you, this time on the spinnaker. Round the world yachtswoman Ellen MacArthur. A flashback to an earlier Australian attempt to seize sailing's most prestigious trophy in 1977. Thus, an up-to-the-minute report live on the buoyant spirit among the British crew in Auckland. And with me here, our golden Olympic pair, Ben Ainsley and Shirley Robertson, both of them experienced world-class match racers. Now here's a kaleidoscope view of a race on the course in the Hauraki Gulf just north of Auckland. Two boats only in each match race, over 6 legs, 3 upwind and 3 downwind. From the top of the screen there, downwind to the bottom. They've now begun the second round robin, as it's called, all 9 boats in a second round of separate contests with each other, and the fight is on for the top 4 places in the quarter-final. Our first excitement, needless to say, is that hard-fought race with Stars and Stripes. The British crew was skippered by Ian Walker in the big race, Andy Beadsworth in there again as starting helmsman and strategist. Ian Budgeon, another ex-commentator, makes the trimming team. So this week, mainsail trimmer Richard Sydenham joins Richard Simmons to tell the story.
Well, it's not been a confrontational pre-start, but there's less than 25 seconds to go now.
There's cat flap on the bow, talking to Andy Beadsworth, the driver, calling him time and distance to the line, looking like they're a little bit early.
You're right, they're certainly early. GBR Challenge on the left, line just ahead. You can see race control at the far side. Cornwall is saying go now. GBR Challenge start, the gun has gone. Well, that was a good start by GBR Challenge. They were on the pace, they had momentum, and Stars and Stripes tucked in behind them. The American team will be struggling to live there, getting disturbed wind off the British sails.
Yeah, it's a very strong position for GBR. You'd expect them to
gradually... Look at them accelerate there, on the left. The British team accelerating away on the gain line, taking the early advantage. And they expect to see Stars and Stripes tack, and they do.
Yeah, here they go. Stars and Stripes struggling to live there, tacking off out to the right.
Do you think covering them upwind's going to be enough?
Covering them will be okay, but as long as they're not too quick. We might have to take a few shifts up
here. I don't look like that picture is not good. GBR Challenge getting knocked by the wind. Stars and Stripes with a better angle, and that graphic is showing precisely that 23-metre lead. Right a picture, Stars and Stripes, the American team on the gain line.
Yeah, it's very hard in that windward position in the light. Struggling, and there they go, tacking off now. GBR here will be looking for some kind of shift to go back across on, try and close down some of that leverage.
As the British team roll the boat into attack. Coming across now with no right of way. Stars and Stripes are going to pass ahead. Expect the American team to tack. Or are they far enough ahead they're just going to carry on? Well, this is a disappointing sight for the British team. And the options for Walker and his men somewhat limited as Stars and Stripes tack and put the cover on them. The first time they met, Stars and Stripes took the advantage. The British team couldn't get past. It looks like a repeat performance. What can Walker do?
They'll be desperately trying to escape the cover from Stars and Stripes. There's Chris Main up the rig, looking for that little bit extra wind. He'll be talking to Adrian Stead, the tactician on deck, just trying to find that little bit more wind to sneak back past.
They're going to have to try hard because it's advantage America now. And the British team now making their way up to the top mark. There's a big distance between these two boats as the British team tack. Spinnaker pole ready. And all the time they're trying to gain ground to get round that mark. The American team are just sliding away.
Looks like GBR sailing a little lower here. Might be a slightly quicker boat downwind. This should turn into a reasonable gain when they jibe towards the bottom mark.
There is still a race on here. Left of picture is GBR Challenge. On the right, Stars and Stripes. 70% of the way down to the bottom mark. GBR Challenge. Is this an overtaking moment for the British team? I think it is.
Stars and Stripes really struggling to sail high enough here. Struggling to defend their position.
Yeah, the next mark is where our camera is, and Stars and Stripes are trying to force the British team away from it. But the American team are quite simply too far away from GBR Challenge, who've now got, what, a 10... Oh, I was getting optimistic. No, a 10-metre advantage. In fact, they're clear ahead. British team sailed straight past, and it appeared there was just nothing the American team could do.
GBR here just trying to do one last jibe, keeping the boat speed on, needing to prepare to drop the spinnaker.
Well, frenetic activity on board the boat as the boat slides down towards the bottom mark. Oh, and that's a messy drop on board the American boat.
Looked like they were under pressure from the moment GBR rolled them there, not getting set up for their drop quite well.
Well, decades of experience on this boat. Stars and Stripes haven't missed an America's Cup for 15 years, but you wouldn't know it there. And there is the British team leading in towards the top mark. 92 metres the distance between the two boats as GBR Challenge at the halfway stage of this race head down towards the fourth mark. Stars and Stripes in touch, but GBR Challenge last time did look quicker downwind, so a chance perhaps now to press home the advantage as the American team round in good wind.
Yes, GBR will be looking to extend their lead down this run. They'll still have someone up the mast looking for the best wind. It's getting very light out there now.
And if it's getting light, it's getting shifty. Perhaps some concern for the British team.
Yes, it's definitely a heads-up kind of day. The whole crew will be looking around, trying to look for the best wind, trying to stay out of any sort of holes out there.
So the British team now are on the gain line, but this really is very, very difficult out here at the moment. The wind has faded away. The lead is almost halved now, around 50 metres. The American team behind have jibed. Now the British team, are they going to jibe in front of the American to protect that side of the racetrack?
It looks like GBR here just opting to continue a little bit, just to try and keep some clear air.
That's got to be a risk.
Yes, that is a risk. They've probably seen some more wind that side of the course, perhaps just trying to stay a bit clear of Stars and Stripes' dirty air.
There is more wind on the other side of the racetrack. The American team made the right decision, or were lucky. And on the far side, the American team, the bow is just crossing the green line. They are now in the lead. The hearts will be beating fast on GBR Challenge. Well, middle of picture, that is the next mark. On the left is GBR Challenge, on the right is the leader, and the leader is Stars and Stripes. And the lead is around 30 metres. The American team jibe.
GBR on the right here, on starboard jibe, having right of way. Americans desperately trying to squeeze down to the 3 boat length circle, which will give them rights to go round ahead.
Well, the British team are coming in on starboard. They've got right of way and they're being forced to manoeuvre and get out of the way. Surely Stars and Stripes are in a wrong. Surely that's a penalty for the American team.
But if Stars and Stripes had managed to get their bow into the 3 boat length circle before GBR jibe, then they would have right of way.
Well, that picture said they did not do that. Both boats are outside the circle on the screen. That is the 3 boat length circle. But at the moment, Stars and Stripes are leading. Surely they are due a penalty. Where are the umpires?
Yes, that should definitely be a penalty to Stars and Stripes, and an immediate one, because they've taken a large advantage from fouling GBR.
Well, they may have done that, but right now the American team are still leading this race, and there is no sign of any penalty to anyone at all. Messy mark rounding by the American team. There's the umpire boat. Make a decision, and they have. That blue flashing light means a penalty turn. Oh yeah, you're right. Red one. That means an immediate penalty to the American team. So the British team are 12 seconds behind. The Americans have got to do a penalty. They're doing it now, and it will take around 30 seconds. So do the maths.
A penalty should put them somewhere between 4 and 5 boat lengths behind GBR here. A nice advantage to have on the last beat.
We may well be watching the defining moments of a contest that started hours ago. Right a picture on the gain line. British team leading easily. The American team now, well, they're paid the penalty quite literally. 122 metres between the boats. This would be a massive victory for the British team. In the final 100 metres or so to the finish, GBR Challenge are leading. Well, they lost against Stars and Stripes in the first round by just 20 seconds. This morning they were losing until the wind faded away and the race was postponed. But they are about to record a quite staggering victory. An historic victory against Stars and Stripes and the New York Yacht Club, the club that won the America's Cup in 1851 and wouldn't let go for 132 years. An immensely proud moment for Peter Harrison, the man who plotted and planned all this, and quite a moment too for the crew. This really is spectacular stuff.
This is a great win for us, putting us on 5 points now, 1 point ahead of Stars and Stripes.
And what a transformation. Halfway through the first round, the British team were 4-1 down, and they've won every single race since. This is their 5th victory. That flag signals the moment. The British team have won 4 races in a row. They're now inside the top 4. And Dennis Connor's Stars and Stripes are behind them on the water and the scoreboard.
It's a phenomenal day today because it's the first day of the second round robin, and this gives us 5 points. And also we beat New York Yacht Club, I mean the original winners of the America's Cup from us, Great Britain that is, 151 years ago. So I would say today some honour restored.
The boys on GBR had turned up and were sort of giving us a little bit of a look that was false. They were sailing hotter than their normal angles, and so then they just reached up and were able to roll over us, and it took a long time, and it was painful, and you knew it was coming a minute before it happened. They did a good job.
Probably the biggest moment of the race was the penalty incident at the end of the second run, and they'd been gaining on us down the run. The boats came together at the bottom of the run, and it was a close run thing as to whether we were right of way as starboard boat or they were right of way as the inside boat at the mark rounding.
If we can get into the protection of the zone 3 boat lengths from the mark before GBR gets to us, then we're safe.
The umpires decided that we weren't rounding the mark, we were outside 3 lengths. They'd broken the rules, they got the penalty, and we managed to get ahead and stay ahead.
Well, there we are. That race ended as the evening came in New Zealand. Now, Ben, a terrific win for the Brits.
Well, fantastic. It's a very significant and positive result for a GBR challenge because very closely placed with Stars and Stripes for that top 4 result. So full credit to the boys. They did a really good job.
Exciting moment, Shirley.
Fantastic, yeah. I mean, they had a great start, up to speed, at the pin, at start time, perfect. And I think they'd be a little bit disappointed they lost him on the first beat, but that first run, outstanding.
Let's look at that first run. Now, here we have the picture. Here we have, on the right here now, we have the American boat coming down. We're looking right, bird's eye view. American boat coming down. That's the lead line showing its lead over the British boat here. Here's the American boat coming down. The American boat's now going to jibe onto the port tack. Here they come. British boat clearly behind here. Now, Ben, just take up the story here. There's the American boat going round. Now, how on earth does the British boat catch up? It's a wonderful sight, this. Just watch White Lightning coming down here. Ben.
We had a bit of a clue from Peter Iser, the navigator of Stars and Stripes, saying that GBR sailed a low angle.
Look at the speeds, Ben. 9 knots the British boat, 7 knots the American boat. Look at it. Look at the British boat zooming past here. Go on.
Yeah, Stars and Stripes sailed a low GBR sailed a low angle, fooling Stars and Stripes into jibing too late. And so they kept the speed on GBR and rolled over, took Stars and Stripes breeze, and took control of the race.
Far better downwind, Shirley, as you said. It's extraordinary, isn't it?
We saw that in the last round robin as well. Really good pace downwind, and I think they're sailing smart too. You can't take that away from them.
Okay, now the moment that Ian Walker described as the big moment in the race, that penalty. Let's have a look at the picture here. The picture of that penalty. Here it is. There's the British boat on starboard tack coming on the right, turning away because the American boat's there. Ben, what's going on?
Oh, this is a typical port and starboard scenario. GBR on starboard jibe coming in, and it looks like Stars and Stripes thought they could either get to the 3 boat length zone and be safe or cross GBR challenge, and they just totally messed it up basically. I mean, misjudgment.
Let's have a look at it, Ben, on our animated machine, our animated graphic. Here we have the British boat here on the right on starboard tack with right of way coming up straight for them into the American boat, and then the British boat has to turn away because the American doesn't move. Now, what is the American boat doing wrong there, Shirley?
Well, I think they thought they were in the 3 boat length circle, which meant that they could go round the mark and they were in the right. But, you know, it's easy to watch the graphics and you see where it is, but on the boat it's quite often hard to judge. He's going to have to take his penalty, watch it all the way around in that big circle. What, man, must be awful for the Americans there. And that's really where they lost the race, isn't it? Dear, oh dear. Poor old Dennis Collins, Stars and Stripes. Anyway, let's have a look now at the sail that's so tough to set. The sail that can make or break a race. On with the wind here, our fan at the back, the spinnaker sail. Here it is, whoops, the spinnaker here. So much can go wrong, as we'll see now.
The breeze from 205 at nearly 10 knots. More pressure, more wind speed.
Let's watch the boat handling.
Hello, there's a pole in the water. That's not meant to happen. That is definitely not meant to happen. We've got to get that thing down quickly. Here comes the drop. How good is that?
Just too much pressure in the sail.
Keep that going and they could break it.
I think Oracle's making a huge gain here.
1 lap to go. Another windward loop. That is not a good drop. There's a handbrake going in the tyre. Oh dear, that is not good. They've cut it loose, haven't they? Oh dear, they're getting into trouble here. They've lost it, they've lost it, they've lost it. They've gone trawling, but they've hit the mark.
What a shambles. Just look how that great soft balloon of canvas has caused so much trouble to so many boats, including the British boat on many occasions too. Now then, Shirley and Ben, just show us how good nifty you are with this incredible sail. Take her through the wind and change the spinnaker from one side to the other, will you?
I don't know how nifty we'll be, but we've got to, there's a lot to do. We have to steer the boat, bring the boom across to the new side, swap the pole and swap the spinnaker. So I'll steer, Ben.
Okay. Oh no.
So the helmsman starts to bear away, to steer the boat. The main comes into the middle of the boat, all that rope to pull in. Pole comes off the spinnaker.
Oh no, this is why I never get up here.
Pole swap sides. I take the sheet. Wait for the bowman to eventually put the pole on.
I thought you had it twisted from them, but you've done well.
Main's on the new side and we sheet in and we're off. And hopefully it's a bit quicker than that.
And you said it beautifully, not too bad. But now, Ben, of course, it can go badly wrong, can't it?
Oh yeah, I mean we've seen in the races so far lots of trawling at leeward marks, and it's such a big sail. The hardest thing is actually getting it down into the boat at the bottom of the run.
Extraordinary. Anyway, not so bad, you two. But the lesson wouldn't do you any harm. Here's Ellen MacArthur, who knows her way around the foredeck after her solo round the world race, giving a few spinnaker tips to Nick Maloney.
Okay, we're now coming up to the windward mark. We're going to have the buoy thrust on our starboard side, and at the buoy we're going to bear away, turn away from the wind and park the spinnaker. We've got the buoy just coming up to us now. We're preparing the main sheet to ease.
Pole gone out.
Buoy's just alongside, bearing away.
Easing away. Hoisting.
Back. Line out. Nice. Okay, right now we're sailing downwind, so we have the wind coming from behind us. That means the wind's literally pushing us along rather than us trying to beat into it. You can see that the best way to go downwind is to put up as much sail as you possibly can. So right now we've got the mainsail let out, there's the big yellow spinnaker, and that's just what they do on the cut boats. They try and catch all the wind, every bit of wind, and sail as fast as they can to the leeward mark. Single-handed and crewed sailing is obviously some of the manoeuvres happen more quickly because there are more people to do that. On Kingfisher, when sailing single-handed, to actually put up a spinnaker might take me 15 minutes. But in the cut boat, it takes a little bit less than that. Nick, how long do you reckon it takes to get a cudgel on a cut boat?
Well, I think you train continually for 2.5 years to get them up and set and drawing, pulling the boat as fast as they can in under a minute.
That's amazing.
Well, Nick and Ellen are now sailing to St. Malo, preparing to cross the Atlantic in the Route to Rum single-handed race. We'll catch up with them in 2 weeks' time. But now the race is on for the vital top 4 places in the quarterfinals, which give you a double chance of reaching the semi-finals. And one of Britain's biggest rivals for the 4th quarterfinal place is the Italian boat Prada. Prada beat Oracle yesterday, having already won the delayed first round race against Mascalzone Latino in the morning. And then Oracle sacked their skipper. We'll have more of that in a moment. Today, Prada was up against Stars and Stripes, the American boat that went down to the British yesterday. Now, Ben, you looked at that for us.
After a disappointing first round of racing for both of these crews, victory was a must when the two met at the beginning of round robin 2. It was Prada, enjoying a resurgence in form, who claimed the pin end and the left-hand side of the course from the start. The left-hand side had been shown to be advantageous, and this forced Ken Reid on Stars and Stripes over to the right in search of a windshift. At the crucial first cross, it was Prada with the advantage, which allowed them to cover the Americans all the way to the first mark. Prada had obviously been hard at work in between the 2 round-robin stages, and it was clearly paying off. By the time they reached the first mark, the lead had grown to 20 seconds. With confidence growing all the time aboard Luna Rossa, the pressure on the Stars and Stripes crew was beginning to show. As Prada rounded the fourth mark, the Italian boat was in a completely dominant position. A poor drop by Stars and Stripes allowed Prada to extend their lead still further. The newfound confidence on the Italian boat shown by the slick crew work by the bowman. By the finish, the gap had extended to a well-deserved 41 seconds.
So that Italian boat Prada is now the British boat's key rival for that fourth place in the quarter-final. Both of them have pipped Stars and Stripes by almost exactly the same time. Is there any way of comparing their performance? Well, first their record upwind. When GBR raced Stars and Stripes, they won 2 of the upwind legs, and Prada won all 3. But downwind, GBR also won 2 legs, whereas Prada failed to win any of the 3 legs with the wind behind them. Now, Ben, is that a good sign?
Well, I think it shows that GBR's got the legs downwind, but we've seen Prada have made some quite big changes between the 2 round robins and are back up to speed, so it's going to be a pretty interesting contest when they meet each other.
Shirley, do you think the British have got a good chance against the Italians?
I think they have. I mean, we've seen we're going really well, especially downwind, and Prada are also going well, but I think it'll be a close battle.
So important that fourth place, isn't it? Anyway, let's go now live to the British yard in Auckland, where Richard Simmons is taking the temperature of the team after their encouraging start of the second run. Now, Richard, what's going on there? What's the latest news?
Well, the latest news, this is pouring with rain. It's very, very windy indeed, and there is no racing today. So all the excitement and the build-up for One World, it isn't going to happen today.
Oh, dear. But what about Spirits there? I mean, not too far down after they're doing very well in the races, aren't they?
Well, that's not too far down. The Spirits, they're pretty spectacular here, actually. Everyone is on a high. There is one possible issue. Stars and Stripes are claiming that the race against GBR was started below the 7-knot minimum. Now they're claiming redress, and they're saying it blew less than 7 knots before the start, and they're saying there should be a resale, and there's a meeting about that this afternoon. So that's sort of causing a little bit of anxiety here.
Dear me, you're telling me. I mean, another race with Stars and Stripes wouldn't be too nice, would it? After all, they were ahead for quite a lot of that race, weren't they?
Well, yeah, you do feel we've got a GBR challenge, got a get-out-of-jail card on that one. They did sail pretty well, and there was a spectacular end of that race, but I don't think that too many people will look forward to another encounter. And Stars and Stripes are behind the British team at the moment. Prada got one over them yesterday, so there is a bit of anxiety about that, and I think we'll know that decision later on this afternoon, possibly this evening. Meetings like that tend to take a long time. OK, back to you in a moment, Richard. Now, 2 colourful images, the remarkable lengths that people in Auckland are going to in order to watch these races. But first, a flashback to the America's Cup of 25 years ago, when Australia emerged as the country most likely to tear the trophy away from the Americans, who'd never lost it once in a century and a quarter. 1977 saw America defending with the extrovert Ted Turner in Courageous.
Okay, we're by now.
Against Alan Bond, the property tycoon from Perth in the boat Australia. This was the 23rd challenge for the America's Cup, but with Courageous a minute ahead at the first mark, it was obvious that Turner wasn't going to give up the cup without a fight. The pattern was set for this challenge. Turner tactics were about getting the advantage at the start, establish a lead by the first mark, and then hold off any attempts made by the Australians. The final result of 4-0 was hardly fair on Bond and his fellow Australians, as there was never more than a minute and a half between the crews at the finish of any race. Bond was to come back 6 years later and snatch the cup for Australia. But at the moment, Turner's reward for retaining the America's Cup was a donkey in the harbour at the New York Yacht Club.
Queen Victoria started it all 150 years ago when she was an unamused onlooker at the first America's Cup. These days, the Louis Vuitton Cup is played out before a TV audience of millions. Yacht racing a spectator sport? You bet. Whether or not yacht racing is right up your street, as the regatta venue, Auckland offers the ultimate in cheap seats. The racing out there on the Hauraki Gulf is plain to see, and it costs nothing. But that's really only a tantalizing glimpse of the action. If you want to get a real taste, you have to get out onto the water. Bobbing around near the start lines, you'll find the millionaires, the friends of millionaires, the very best friends of millionaires, and those whom you'd call true yachting fanatics.
You've got to get amongst it. That's the only way you can see it actually happen. I mean, you guys with the cameras are great, but you can't get the reality of it unless you do it 3D. And that's what you got to do.
We were due to be going to India 2 weeks ago, and then one of my friends bought me this rig out, and we said, why don't we go and watch the America's Cup instead, because that's what we really wanted to do. So we came out especially just to see a few races.
Oh, it is. They call it the holy grail of yachting. It's the World Cup, and everyone who's in yachting comes down here, especially for the America's Cup final.
At times, the action is right up close. At others, just a little far away. But you don't leave the technology behind when you leave the shore, and there's always resident experts on hand to bring you up to date.
So just update again, look right just off our starboard bow there, you can see the two boats coming in, and that's Mascalzoni on the right and Prada on the left.
They're making it quite interesting now with this virtual spectator, and also having explained to people who don't understand what's going on, it can be more televisual.
Anyone like a cold wine or a beer?
It's definitely worth being out just to see all the sort of the sideshow, really, all these boats out here, seeing what's what.
The multi-million-dollar spectacle unfolding out on the Hauraki Gulf for the next 3 months will mean that the grandstand seats will be at a premium.
Well, the most dramatic event of the last 24 hours has been the sacking of the skipper of the American boat Oracle. The syndicate's boss, Larry Ellison, who spent more big bucks on his boat than anyone else, has fired Peter Holmberg after Oracle's defeat by Prada yesterday. Richard now tells the story of how Holmberg was dismissed only a day after getting a vote of confidence.
3 weeks ago, Oracle boss Larry Ellison introduced one of his prized assets, skipper Peter Holmberg.
He is the world match racing champion. He beat all these other guys. We're very proud of that. We had a great group of people.
Well, all sterling stuff, wasn't it? But by this Thursday morning in Auckland, it appeared that being a world champion didn't count for much in the Oracle team. And one of the parking lots was mysteriously empty. When Prada slipped across the finish line in the race against Oracle on Wednesday, a man not used to finishing behind people had done so 4 times on the trot. Ellison looked like he was contemplating a solution. Every Oracle team member looked vulnerable, but it was skipper Peter Holmberg who lost his job. Replaced by Chris Dixon, a prodigious sailing talent, but someone who lives with a reputation for being an awkward taskmaster. He led the boat out for Thursday's race. Dixon had been part of the Oracle team, but was relieved of his day-to-day duties. Overnight he was back out of the wilderness and Larry Ellison's favourite talent.
The fact is, we raced 5 times, had 4 losses, and we beat Victory Challenge because they broke a halyard. We didn't even rate, really, they went around the course with 1 sail. So we weren't getting the results. And when you're a professional sports team and you don't get the results, you have to make changes, I believe, and that's what we did.
Can Larry Ellison rebuild a team around a man not known as a team player? If not, will Dixon last the distance? Beating one of the weakest teams here, though, was celebrated like it really mattered.
So all the drama you can imagine. But what about the other contests at the beginning of this second round? Beginning with the teams at the top of the league so far.
Well, this is the battle of the big hitters. One World, the team that have not yet lost a match, Alingi, skippered by Russell Coops, the man who won the America's Cup last time for Team New Zealand.
Here we go now. Lingy just trying to get their bow in below One World and push them up. Looks like One World is just about right for the pin. Should be a nice start by One World.
That's the start. One World crossed the line with pace, but Alingi looked good too.
Yeah, Alingi will be looking for an early tack here. It's very hard to live above the leeward boat.
Well, Alingi do tack. Middle of picture. One World continue. Timid pre-start that. It'll be fascinating to see the differences in boat speed between One World, unbeaten so far, and Alingi. And on board Alingi, Russell Coots steering, behind him Brad Butterworth, the 2 guys who helped win the America's Cup for Team New Zealand and who jumped ship. It's very shifty out here today. Is that Alingi tacking at the far side of the track? Yes, it is. We're on board now with Alingi. Well, it did look like One World had the advantage.
Yeah, it looked on the pictures like the wind had swung left slightly, which would give One World the advantage.
Well, let's look at the graphic and see what is happening. And right a picture, that is Alinghi on the gain line. They've got a 40-metre lead, and the wind appears to have swung. Alinghi have the advantage, or have they? One World attacking. This will be the first time the boats will cross. They look a little frightened on One World. Charlie McKee in the foreground, behind him James Spittle steering. And that's why they're looking concerned. Alinghi are going to pass clear ahead. Russell Coutts is about to steer his machine in front of One World on the first cross. Well, One World beat Alinghi last time. Is this a significant moment in this race for Russell Coutts? Since Alinghi made that first cross pretty soon after the start, this race has been one-way traffic. Russell Coutts has been in control. One World have always looked on the wrong side of this result, and their next race, well, against a team on a bit of a roll. They face GBR Challenge.
With Alinghi and One World pulling away from the rest of the field, the battle is now on for who'll get the coveted third and fourth places at the end of round 2. Prada are now on a roll. They beat Stars and Stripes to make it 3 wins in 2 days and climb up to number 3. Yesterday they wrapped up their remaining race in round 1 with defeat of fellow Italians Mascalzoni, and then took the scalp of the big bucks of Oracle after a wind shift turned the deficit of over 60 seconds into a 2-minute victory. Oracle are clearly getting worried with that change of skipper as Chris Dixon took the helm from Peter Holmberg and notched up his first win against Mascalzoni. Despite victory, they have slipped to 4th place with GBR Challenge a point behind and a race in hand. The Swedish Victory Challenge have only raced once in round 2 against the bottom boat Ladefi Arava and notched up a win of just over a minute, which also saw a good start for their new boat. Dennis Connor's Stars and Stripes recorded 2 from 2 defeats, that is, losing to GBR yesterday and Prada today. Syndicate boss Dennis Connor must be wondering where it's all going wrong. Mascalzoni and Latino have had a tough draw at the start of round 2, with defeats at the hands of One World and Oracle. Tonight they face Alinghi, and they can focus on survival against the remaining boats. The mood is tense in the French Défi Arava camp after defeats by Alinghi and Victory Challenge. Next they take on Prada. A point there would put them on a par with Mascalzoni, and the duel between these 2 bottom boats in a week's time could decide who stays and who goes. So a reminder then of the scoreboard. This is the Louis Vuitton Cup. The winner of this will fight the New Zealanders in the America's Cup, a long way away from now. Anyway, where's it leave the field? Well, the clear leaders are Alinghi and One World with 9 points, then Prada and Oracle with 6 points, just ahead of the British boat on 5. But they have a race in hand. Then Dennis Connor and Victory Challenge, both on 4 points. And at the bottom, fighting for survival, Mascalzoni, the Netted Rascals, and Ladefi, the French boat. One World will lose a penalty point at the end of this round. So Prada are now clearly the main rival to the British. So we had a word with their skipper, Francesco De Angelis, who told us how they'd smartened up their act.
The goal was to improve all the package, and there's been modification done in all the different areas. I mean, one noticeable was the hull, I guess, but some others in all the other parts of the boat, from the sails to the rig to other stuff as well.
Well, now, Richard, there's Prada, obviously a big rival, but now what's going on Oracle? What's the morale like there after they go and sack their skipper?
Well, running around in the rain this morning and finding out lots, it would appear that their trimmer, Stu Argo, this is not confirmed, has walked out of the camp. It also appears up to 5 crew may be following him. So what we were saying earlier on does appear to be coming true. That is a camp with a lot on their hands.
Goodness me. Well, now tell us about something about the team there and how they're looking forward towards a possible place in the semi-finals.
Well, the person who should tell you about that is I'm standing with Ado Stead, a man who's done so much to put the GBR Challenge where they are now. And let's just touch on the Oracle situation at the moment, because that's surely good news for GBR Challenge if they've got a problem.
Well, I mean, they've appointed Chris Dixon as their skipper. Dixon's won the Worlds 3 times. He's with been with the team for 2 years, but they didn't want him.
He's a difficult man to sail with, isn't he?
Very, very much so. He only did 1 leg of the last Whitbread Round the World race before he was replaced as skipper. But he's a very good sailor, and you know, we'll have to see. He's won his first race.
Well, you can't control what happens to them, but you can control, and you are, controlling a lot of what happens to GBR. You're sailing a very brave tactical game. I mean, where do you get that confidence from? You must have superb confidence.
I mean, we know when we're up against our opposition that we think's got a bit of a speed edge on us. Then, you know, obviously we've got to be bold to stay ahead of them. We've got to, where we're racing against teams where the boat speeds are similar, then we keep it tight and we chip away and we let them make mistakes.
Do you think Prada, just talking about teams who are similar or not, are now a faster boat than yours?
I mean, we'll have to see. The Prada match is in a couple of days' time. Last time we sailed Prada was really good, very close contest, so we're looking forward to another one of those.
Richard, could I ask Adrian there what he reckons his chances are against One World at the crucial next race? Adrian, can you hear me all right?
We've got One World tomorrow. I think One World could be pretty good, really. We're expecting quite a lot of breeze. And I think they're a team that we could potentially beat. It will come down to boat handling, keep the race tight, and hopefully that might make the difference.
Adrian, if you can beat One World, you'll be up against the New Zealanders, perhaps, in the final, in the America's Cup.
Maybe. I mean, we've got a lot to do yet. The boat's getting faster, which is good. We're sailing the boat better every day we go out. And we've just got to keep at it. We've now won 4 races on the trot, and you know, if we can give One World a really good race, hopefully we can make it 5.
Okay, Ben Ainsley, have you got any message for Adrian Stead and the crew?
Good work, Ado. Go and give Gilly and the boys a good stuffing, eh?
Shirley, a word from you.
Yeah, enjoy your day off, Ada.
Great stuff, Adrian. Well, anyway, the key question really is just to finish off with, I mean, how sure are you now of a place in the semi-finals?
I think we're still a long way from a place in the semi-finals. We've still got to win. We've still got 7 more matches in this round robin, and you know, each one of those, each matches will affect where we end up in the ladder and where we end up in the competition. So every match of the next 7 is equally as important as the Stars and Stripes.
Richard, a final goodbye from you.
Well, a goodbye from us, and let's just look forward to next week. 4 wins in the row. Watch this space and watch this man. There's a lot to come.
Absolutely, and good luck, you guys, and thank you both very much for joining us, Ben and Shirley, here in the studio in London, and good luck to the British crew in the next race, and thank you to our guests here. We'll be back next Thursday after a whole week of vital races for the GBR team, as Richard was saying, to gauge their prospects. You can follow all these races on Grandstand on Sunday at 5 o'clock.
And finding the ultimate combination of all of these elements is the key. If you get that right, then you've got a winning formula. And once you've got that winning formula, you want to keep it. The last thing you want is your competitors finding out how you've done it. With keels visible from helicopters, it could pay to slap a bit of camouflage paint on to break up the outline when it's in the water. Even on dry land, the teams want to protect their design. They hide the keels, or even the whole boat, under skirts. This is because each team is spying on all the others.
Spying is an integral part of the America's Cup. It's gone on for years. We're actually very controlled about what spying we're allowed to do now. 6 or 8 years ago, you were allowed to intercept telemetry from people's boats. You're allowed to track from satellites. You were allowed remote-controlled submarines. There were people going through garbage bins and sticking plans back together. All of that stuff. Well, all of that's banned now.
Espionage has gone on for years, and counter-espionage even longer. A boat back in 1895 was launched with a skirt around it from Henderson's Yard at Partick on the Clyde. So there's nothing new to people wanting to find out what went on. And in fact, a New York newspaper sent a diver down into New York Harbor to examine the keel of that boat and came up with nothing because the waters were so muddy. So yes, espionage has been there for a long time, and I think it's very interesting that everybody wants to find out what the other person has got.
Now, photography and video are the only acceptable ways of checking out competitors. But why all this intense effort to find out what the other team is doing?
What we're looking at, for example, is photographs like this. We know this distance, the height of the mast, is 32 metres. We can use that as a scale to then work out how wide the boat is, And likewise, we can go into other photographs like this one and use the mast height as a scale for how long the boat is and how wide the sail is at different points, calculate the sail area from that, and just build up a picture of the other boats. The overall intention of getting dimensions for the other boat is just to build up a picture of what his performance profile is going to be, when he'll be quick, when he'll be slow, how much sail area he has, going back how much horsepower, and just try and work out how the other boat goes, how it works, what makes it tick.
Spying is important because you can use the information to go on and improve your own boat design.
We looked very closely at NZL60, the boat that won the America's Cup last time, to the extent that actually we built up a very good set of hull lines, as far as we thought. We then actually made a test tank model of that and used it as our reference for a lot of our test tank work. Indeed, what we thought of doing was sending a set of lines to the Kiwis and asking for marks out of 10 to see how good they were. Never got around to that.
For the first time in 15 years, Great Britain are competing. Their campaign started 12 months ago, but unlike the other teams, they had to start from scratch. So they bought 2 boats that had previously competed from the Japanese, and their campaign began. After a lot of hard work, they came up with 100 possible hull designs. Computer modelling helps whittle these down to about 20. Quarter-scale models are then made of these and tank-tested to find the fastest design. GBR made their decision on which was the best design, and by last April they had finished building it. They called it GBR 70.
I think GBR Challenge is remarkable. One, it's come from 15 years of inactivity from Britain, and it's come with enough financial push to make sure that it is a good one. And it has done remarkably well, I think, in these round robins. Not quite so good in the second round robin as it was in the first, but I think the first surprised even the team itself, and maybe they're a little disappointed with what they got out of the second round robin. But still, they're there in the quarterfinals, and that's what they intended to do.
After the 2 round robins, GBR 70 finished in 6th place. Not as high as the team would have liked, but they've now got another card up their sleeve. Whilst they were building the first boat, GBR 70, the tank testing went on, and in the course of that, they came up with a surprising and interesting result. One of the new models they tested was faster than GBR 70. So for the first time ever, Great Britain have 2 boats. They built the second boat, now called GBR 78, and in August they flew it out to New Zealand, where it would go into the water for the first time ever. Once here, the testing began, and a few days ago they took it out on the water. If you put this boat next to the 70, which you're racing with at the moment, what differences can you see between the two?
Well, the immediate difference, even to an untrained eye, is the fact the mast is a lot further forward in this boat. What that means to anybody who understands this game is that we have a different, what we call appendage package, a different keel and rudder underneath the boat than a conventional boat.
Okay, so what's going on underneath 78?
No, I'm not going to tell you that. That's why we have skirts on these boats.
Since then, they've been racing the 2 boats side by side.
Well, at the moment we don't know, frankly, which boat we're going to go with, because we will be testing 78 very seriously against the benchmark data of 70. And this next 7 days is going to be a very late call, it's going to be a very tough call, but then I will, in conjunction with all the team, we'll have to make that final call.
Obviously, if GBR 78 is very much faster, the decision is easy. It's in the quarterfinals. But what if it's only a little bit faster? Is it worth putting the crew into a boat they're not used to for such a small margin of speed?
From the design data, it should be faster. And at the moment we're testing that out. If it's just marginally faster, the big difficult thing, of course, is the crew will not be as familiar with that. But I think the management's call would be it's marginally faster because there's just so little margins. We're talking about 10 seconds over 24 miles, half a second a mile. It's marginally faster. I think we take the risk and run that boat, and the crew will have to get familiar with it on the race.
It's a difficult decision to make, but whatever it is, we'll know by next Monday.
Well, it's lunchtime tomorrow in New Zealand at the moment. I'm joined from there now by Peter Harrison's daughter, Julia Harrison-Lee, who is the director of GBR Challenge. Julia, can you help us any further on this? Have you decided yet which boat to go for?
Well, we'll be making a formal announcement next Monday, but we're currently evaluating all the test and design performance data.
You see, one British newspaper this morning, the Telegraph, says you've definitely decided, unlike what your dad was saying just then, you've definitely decided to stick with GBR 70, the older boat.
Well, as I said, we'll be making a formal announcement next Monday as to which boat we declare in the quarterfinals.
Are you very excited about GBR 78? I mean, obviously your dad says it's a bit faster and all this kind of stuff. Is it a very exciting new radical design?
Well, we're very excited by both our boats. Just being in the America's Cup here, competing after a 15-year absence with two boats, it's great. The achievement is immense.
All this rubbish about sort of concealing the keel and sort of, you know, saying it's not this, it's not that, and having got a giggle about it. I mean, is it all a bit of fun, or is it really serious business?
Well, America's Cup racing is very much like Formula One, and we all like to keep our design secrets secret. We work very hard to achieve those gains.
But why? I mean, what I mean by this, well, why keep it secret? Does it really matter whether things got a couple of fins here or a couple of keels there or whatever they're called? Why bother with all this secrecy?
Because the design gains that we make achieve a faster boat on the water, and it's all about winning the race.
Now, what do you think is going to happen in the next round? We're coming up to this great battle with Dennis Conner and so on. How confident are you can beat him?
Well, we're really looking forward to taking on Team Dennis Conner in the next round. It's a historic match. We're very evenly matched. They've beaten us once, our first race, and we beat them in the second round robin. I think it's going to be fantastic, and we're going to be going out there and giving it our absolutely best shot.
When I was out in Auckland about a couple of months ago talking to your father, he said that the target for GBR Challenge was at least to get to the semi-finals. Now that's a tall order, isn't it? I mean, that's not just beating Dennis Conner, that's beating the next one as well, one of the top boats.
Yes, it is a very tall order, but, you know, you've got a young team here, we've got a great design team, the energy, the enthusiasm and the determination. We're all here, we're all determined to do our very, very best. In
spite of the quite disappointing end to that second round robin.
Yes, I mean, things didn't go quite as we planned in the second round robin, but this is a long game. You've got to learn and gradually just build up your game, improve. It's about upping yourself throughout the competition.
Okay, Julia, well, thank you very much and good luck in the next round. Thank you.
Thank you.
Now let's look in detail at how the two great rivals match up to each other. GBR and Stars and Stripes. They're very evenly matched. They've each beat the other once in the first phase.
And it's a red flag penalty against the Americans. History in the Pacific Ocean and a wonderful experience aboard Stars and Stripes.
Close stuff, very exciting. GBR really pushing the game up close.
GBR definitely closed the game up here.
Okay, now we got a little excitement. Stars and Stripes saying, well, you got to jive for the mark. GBR saying you got to stay clear. Shifting winds, green flag by the umpires.
Well, now let's take this thing by the throat and decide what we've got under this second boat. We've got a funny-looking keel down there, of course, doesn't represent anything at all except a little model. But Shirley, what do you think this newfangled keel is beneath the new boat?
Well, we know that they've significantly moved the rig forward in the boat, and that means that they've significantly moved the balance of the boat and what's under the water. So it's going to be something different. It certainly doesn't look like the model, that's for sure. Maybe two keels, maybe two rudders.
Two keels? Separate things? Sticking down?
With a gap in the middle, yeah, a tandem keel could be a possibility. Also two rudders, two smaller rudders could be.
Ben, what do you think it is?
Well, it's a lot of speculation. It's pretty hard to say. I think forward rudder's been tried quite a lot. I mean, it's probably a tandem keel, but who knows what's under there, and they're keeping a good lid on it. So whatever it is, let's hope it works.
What difference would, what do you call a tandem, what do you call it, a tandem keel? What would that make? Would it make it much faster, or?
Yeah, I mean, basically it sort of takes away the need for any rudders, and it's less drag, and also, you know, it's based around trying to generate more lift for the boat, so it sort of sails closer to the wind.
But quite a risk?
Yeah, it's quite a big risk to bring out a radical design like that in a stage like that against Stars and Stripes, so it'd be a big move.
Would you go for it?
Well, I don't think so, not against Stars and Stripes.
Shirley, would you go for it?
I'd maybe go for it if I had to face One World in the next round.
Okay, right. Now then, when you take a hard look at the way both boats have performed, they're very evenly balanced on many counts. It's very hard to identify where one boat is weaker than the other on upwind and downwind speed in light or strong winds. But, interestingly, where the wind is medium, is moderate, we call it medium here, 13 to 18 knots, there the British boat with 4 winds does tend to be comparatively better than Stars and Stripes with 2 winds. With low winds and with weak winds and high winds, on the whole the boats are even. Now, GBR's won 4 races and Stars and Stripes only 2 in moderate winds. More broadly, GBR has started a little less well than Stars and Stripes. The starting advantages have gone mainly to Stars and Stripes. There you see 9 opposed to 8. First crosses, again Stars and Stripes, a bit of an advantage there. The first time they tack across each other on the first beat. Less well at the first mark as well. There you can see Stars and Stripes beating, on the whole, beating the GBR Challenge. But by the third mark, GBR Challenge is going to win more of those beats. And by the 5th mark, again, GBR Challenge again, well ahead of Stars and Stripes. And by the end of the race, we have GBR Challenge winning a total of 7 races and the others 6. So as you can see there, as the race goes on, so GBR Challenge seems to build up an advantage over Stars and Stripes. Ben, what do you think that means?
Yeah, well, I mean, we can see that from the graph and the 2 races we've had so far, the boats are very evenly matched. And really, it's going to, the changes that the teams make to their boats between the second round robin and the quarter-final, it's going to make a huge difference, and it probably will just come down to literally crew work. Okay. And how the team race the boat.
Right, let's compare the boats again, Shirley. Here we have, this is the race between GBR and Stars and Stripes over here. This is the second race they had in the second round robin. Now look there, Stars and Stripes ahead there, but the British boat, White Lightning, coming up on the windward side here, and unbelievably fast here, overtaking the American boat. Let's just see what the speeds are here. We can put the speeds on. So there we are. We've got 9.3 knots here, 7.8 knots here, much, much faster than the British boat. What's going on there, Shirley?
Well, we're so much faster because we've taken the wind from the other boat. But generally, throughout the whole series, we've been fast downwind, and I think that's a big strength. We can come back if we're behind, and we have one area where we're really, really flat.
So, on the whole, good downwind. Now let's have a look at another example, Ben, of what happened in the second round robin. Here we have now on a downwind leg. We have, here comes GBR Challenge in there with right of way on the starboard tack, turning away. Then what happened there?
Well, that's a good example of the Brits being tactically superior. Port and starboard there, and the Americans in the wrong, and they got a red flag penalty, so they had to take it straight away.
And they had a penalty?
Yeah, to the Americans, and that really won the race.
Look at them over here, the Americans having to turn a complete circle. That's a red penalty flag because they actually obstructed the British boat over here.
That's right, they fouled the Brits, and that won the race for the Brits. That was a cracking move, and, you know, vital race too.
Terrific, and of course they sailed off there, the British holding that lead, they sailed off to victory. So anyway, there it is, Britain's rivalry with Stars and Stripes goes back a very long way. They were 2 of the main players 15 years ago, the last time Britain competed in the America's Cup. Dennis Conner was back, challenging, but this time for the San Diego Yacht Club. The British challenge came in the form of Graham Walker's White Crusader. For the first time in the history of the America's Cup, New Zealand had entered a boat, KZ7, nicknamed Plastic Fantastic, due to the fact that the hull was made of fiberglass compared to the aluminium hulls of all the other boats. The Challengers series came down to a battle between Connor's Stars and Stripes and Plastic Fantastic. Would Connor's superior knowledge and skill overcome the greater boat speed of the Kiwis? Even when the jib was torn in two, the rookie Kiwi team was unable to take advantage. The Stars and Stripes crew had stayed calm under the greatest of pressure in grueling conditions to maintain the advantage. Connor was again sailing for the America's Cup, but this time as the challenger and not the defender. The America's Cup challenge, however, proved to be an anti-climax. Stars and Stripes was simply too fast for the defending Australians in Kookaburra 3. No matter what the Australians tried, Connor matched it and then moved up a gear and sailed away. The America's Cup trophy was heading back to the United States, but this time to San Diego and not the New York Yacht Club. Well, now Richard Simmons joins us from Auckland. Richard, what do you make about all this speculation about whether it's going to be the new boat or the old boat?
Well, it's certainly great speculation. It's taking up a lot of column inches down here and at home, I understand. I mean, who knows? We are going to find out on Monday, and I really can't say much more than that, but it is creating a lot of intrigue, and I guess for the team we're trying to beat, and there's a man from that team standing next to me, Bill Trenkle, who's known Dennis Connor for over 20 years, been his right-hand man, well, certainly is now. Now, we're talking about speculation on the British boat, but there's a fair bit of speculation, Bill, with your boat. Which one are you going to use? Because you've got a new unwrapped boat.
Yeah, we have one with the tandem as well. You just haven't seen yet. We haven't put the tandem on yet. We're just going to.
There's a bit of irony here, I think, somehow.
If the British choose a tandem, then we're going to go with a tandem.
Are you really? But is your boat? You've been out there testing the two boats this week. Yeah. You appeared to have a boat speed problem in the first two rounds. Your results certainly say that.
Well, I think the results are a little deceiving. The first round we felt we were slow and we sailed poorly. The second round we just sailed poorly, but we felt we were going a little quicker.
Stacks of experience in your boat, though, and 30 guys in the team have been involved in the America's Cup. There's just 2 in the British team that have been involved. Yeah. But how can you make that experience count?
Well, it's like any team. You have to get everyone to gel. You have to get the team to gel, and we haven't done a great job at that. We've missed the first cross and given the edge to some other people. We've a couple of our battles with Great Britain. We've had some close ones there. And we made a mistake on the second round robin in our race against GBR.
Well, we're going to find out next week when it all kicks off next Tuesday. Thank you for that, Bill. One thing's for sure, is expected to be a very, very close contest and go to the wire, but we'll have to wait until next Tuesday to see how the racing pans out. But back to you in the studio, Peter.
Richard, enjoy next week. Thank you very much. Well, there was a time when an American syndicate like Dennis Connor was almost a cert to walk off with the America's Cup. But since 1995, it's been New Zealand's property. And their crews still have 3 months to wait and watch while the challengers fight it out for the privilege of meeting New Zealand in February's final. Here's Richard again.
Like the boxing champion who waits to see who will emerge to challenge their dominance, Team New Zealand watch as 9 sailing heavyweights fight for the right to challenge the America's Cup defenders.
One of the advantages of the situation is that most of the attention these days is focused on the challenges, and in fact we can look at the challenges too. And if we saw some boat that we didn't understand running away from the fleet, then that would be alarming.
Auckland, 2 years ago.
The America's Cup is still New Zealand's Cup!
Snackenberg had already started to plot as the countdown to the next defence began, but so had others.
I think we're surprised at how strongly they came in. And for example, you could take the British team, which started out with quite modest aspirations. They said, we're going to build one boat and go down there and learn how to do the America's Cup. And eventually it became, well, we'll start a second boat, but we won't finish it. And then, well, we'll finish it, and then we'll fly it to New Zealand. So you can see the escalation.
As others planned their attack, Snackenberg had a lot on his plate. He lost his designer to One World, and his skipper, Russell Coutts, who had Beckham-like status in New Zealand, to Alinghi, the teams that are so far running this show.
They're the people that we know. You know, we've sailed with them and against them for years and years, and we know their capabilities. So the fact that they're at the top of the fleet is better than if they were at the bottom of the fleet, that's for sure.
New Zealanders appear to unite in their us against the world status, but want confirmation that the America's Cup will stay New Zealand's Cup.
We're working very hard, and we're very happy with the way things are going, and we've got a very good chance. And that's the best I can offer at this stage, and we'll just have to wait until February to see how it turns out.
And from Auckland to a quick chance for us to catch up with one of our earlier guests, Nick Maloney, the Australian yachtsman, who together with round-the-world yachtswoman Ellen MacArthur gave us a few basic sailing hints. Now each of them is about to set off single-handed across the Atlantic from St Malo in the Route to Rum race. What does Nick think of their prospects and of GBR's in the America's Cup?
how on earth does an ex-America's Cup sailor find themselves in St Malo preparing for one of the most grueling solo races in the world? To be honest, I'm still asking the same question, and with the breeze blowing like it is, and you know, and such a competition as it is, it's going to be a very, very hard, you know, event for me. Up for 20 days, the boys are out there for their 2.5-hour burst and back home for dinner and a good night's sleep. I'm a little bit envious right now. I think now with two-round robins in GBR Challenge weight, there'll be an assessment on the racing to date, and it won't all be good and it won't all be bad. I think it's the most promising thing is that they aren't on a plane on their way back to the UK. They're still in the fight. They're facing off against Team Dennis Conner, which is going to be a very, very hard opponent, very, very experienced opponent. And but I think the boys have what it takes. I think they've learnt a lot from the racing so far, and they've established a momentum that's superior to Team Dennis Conner right now. So I think they'll continue that and see it on through to the next stage.